Hello, 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 America. It is the American Awakening Squad coming to you from all over this great nation, bringing you Signs of Life today. And what a week for Signs of Life. It is the most holy week on the Christian calendar. Yes, it is Holy Week, day one, Monday. And we'll be talking about that a lot this week because Holy Week, what does it do? Most of all, it tells us the path we're all taking, right? The path which Jesus took, which is death back into life. And if there's one anchoring thing you could think about in the time of the coronavirus crisis, it would be that we're all going to go down that path eventually, but we're all coming back to life. That's the storyline. That's the key storyline. But between now and then, we like to remind you every day because it's the anchoring reason we're here with you. God loves you. God's got a purpose for you. God's got you filled with meaning and significance. You're here for a reason. You're equipped for this time you're in. If nobody else tells you that today, that you're here for a reason, that you have great meaning and significance and you're meant for this time, I'm going to be the one to tell you today. The rest of the squad's going to be here to tell you that today. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it off to our good friend, Josh Jacob, who's going to bring us in with a little worship music. Josh, over to you, my brother.
Thanks, John. And all of you is more than enough for all of me, for every thirst and every need. You satisfy me with your love, and all I have in you is more than enough. You are my supply, my breath of life, still more awesome than I know. You are my reward, worth living for, still more awesome than I know. And I love you is more than enough for all of me, for every thirst and every need. You satisfy me with your love. And all I have in you is more than enough. You're my sacrifice, my greatest prize, still more awesome than I know. You're my coming King, you are everything, still more awesome than I know. And I love you is more than enough for all of me, for every thirst and every need. You satisfy me with your love, and all I have in you is more than enough, more than all I want, more than all I can say. Yeah, you are more than enough for me, more than all I want, more than all I can say. Yeah, you are more than enough, 'cause all of you is more than enough for all of me, for every thirst, every need. You satisfy me with your love, and all I have in you is more than love. And all I have in you is more than enough. And all I have in you is more than enough.
Woo!
Good,
Oh,
good,
I
Josh.
love
Amen.
that.
Josh, you didn't tell us you were taking us way back this morning. That was like middle school. That was my middle school vibes right there. Wow, Volume 1. That was incredible.
Whose song is
Youth
that?
group vibes.
I think isn't that Chris Tomlin? Like Enough? 2000 something?
Yeah. I don't usually do Chris Tomlin, but I just thought today.
No, I mean, that just brought me way back. That's good. That's good.
All of you, more than enough. All right. That's a good word. That's a good word. So we're going to kick it down to Florida here in a moment. Now, usually these days, as March was waning into April, we had some pretty grim weather in the Northeast. But today, it's high sun. It's gorgeous. And it's got that little bit of the promise of spring and Easter, that all is coming back to life, that God's promise He delivers to us every year. You know, once again, everything's new and fresh and all that. We got that feeling up here. How's it feeling down there today, Joel?
Hey, John, it's beautiful in Florida today as well. We haven't hit our hot summer yet. So we're like, this is like the week of the year where we're synced up with the Northeast. So it's really great. We're growing gardens down here and really enjoying it. So, hey, guys, I'm Pastor Joel, bringing you your daily dose, a little bit of hope and truth and light for your day. Today, I want to talk about rhythms and routines, and specifically something that's really an ancient practice called spiritual disciplines. Now, when we hear the word discipline, that usually kind of makes most of us go, oh, I don't know if I want to have anything to do with discipline. That sounds like punishment from my parents or eating healthy when I don't want to. But there's something about an ancient practice that has been practiced for thousands of years about basically creating the space in our lives and our hearts for God to do what God does. So spiritual disciplines are not about us doing a bunch of things and checking a bunch of boxes so that we can actually get close to God. Instead, it's about, as Richard Foster says in his great books, The Celebration of Discipline, which I have right here. If you've never seen it, there you go. Celebration of Discipline. We're going to talk about that this whole week on the show and also in our Daily Dose emails. If you're not getting those, sign up on our website, AmericanAwakening.us/Daily Dose. You can get those into your inbox every day. We're going to be talking about those things this week, but I want to start by just kind of laying out the whole basis for why is it that we would want to do this? Why do we want to create space in our hearts for God to do something? And why do we want to do it? First of all, I want to tap into something that Foster says in his books, which is that joy is the keynote of all the disciplines. The idea behind trying to shape our lives, our routines, our disciplines in a certain way to receive what God has is so that we can experience the joy that he gives us. It's not a drudgery. It's not a bunch of rules and regulations. The idea is more like, as Foster says, I'm going to read a quote here. A farmer, he says, is helpless to grow grain. All he can do is provide the right conditions for the growing of grain. He cultivates the ground, he plants the seed, he waters the plants, and then the natural forces of the earth take over and up comes the grain. This is the way it is with the spiritual disciplines. They're a way of sowing to the spirit. By themselves, the spiritual disciplines can do nothing. They can only get us to the place where something can be done. They are the means of God's grace. And so even in this springtime, even as we're heading into this Holy Week and this idea of new things coming to life, I love this picture that Richard Foster paints of a farmer cannot grow the grain. We don't actually grow the thing. We just planted a garden here at our house. I can't actually make those carrots come out of the ground. What I can do is I can till the soil. I can put the seed carefully, lovingly in. I can water it. I can make sure it has the right environment. That's what routines and rhythms and spiritual disciplines are about. So I want to invite you in this week with us. Tune in every day. Catch up with the Daily Dose. We want to create an environment in our lives where God can do what God does. And it's a beautiful, amazing, joyful thing. So we invite you to join us. And that's your Daily Dose for the day.
Thank you, Joel. That is a super helpful word for me personally. As some of my teammates know, I'm away in the very last day of finishing up a book that's going to come out in July, which is right to the heart of all the soul sickness we're all feeling right now. 8 principles to restore the soul of America, and I'm really excited about it. I really believe in it, I'm so encouraged to share it with folks. But what I'm wrestling with is the fact that all you can do is do exactly what you just told me, Joel. And I'm thinking about that actively today. All I've got is to put the right conditions in place, got that seed in the ground, and then it's only God that takes care of it from there. So that's right. It's really a helpful word for me today, Joel. Thank you so much. Kicking it over to our friend in Maui, Jeff Bethke. How is it there today, friend?
It's good. It's good. It's another normal 75-degree day, cold winter, as we like to call it. Alyssa's got her jacket on. Just joking. Well, no, I'm not joking about the jacket part. She gets cold once it drops below 70. But my thing I want you guys to chew on today is perfect again. I think this might be the strongest connection me and Joel have ever had in regards to two things we're sharing, even though it's always fun to see how they connect a lot more than we think when we don't know what we're going to share. And this something to chew on is a question today. And I'll expand on it because it's a weird question. But is your life more like a factory, or is your spiritual life more like a farm? I know that's a weird question, but it's a question that's been really sitting on my mind for the last couple months. And the reason that is because those are very polar opposite things. You can track the history of our country and how we were a primarily farming country that then went to a primarily urban-centered, industrialized, factory-centered country about 100, 150 years ago. But I think the metaphor holds true to our own personal lives as well. And what I mean by that is farms and factories are very different. And I think a lot of us are more factory oriented, but that's not what we're created for. We were created to be more farm oriented spiritual lives. Exactly what the analogy that Joel just talked about a second ago, which, by the way, if you haven't read that book, it is the seminal classic book on spiritual disciplines. Highly recommend it. Love it as well. Can transform your life if you kind of live into its truths. But here's a quick couple of rapid fire things of what makes a factory and a farm different, right? The quickest one, that's an easy one, is factories create a lot of things really, really quickly, right? But farms create less things over a long period of time, right? So factories are just pounding out and pushing out stuff really, really quickly. When farms, you don't tend to see the fruit of what you're working for until a long period of time. Just like the spiritual disciplines, you plant seeds, you water, you're not going to be able to eat that apple or eat those grains or eat that fruit for months, if not years at some level, depending on what the cycle is. And which one are you in your life? A lot of us, we want factory results, so then we orient our life towards factory-based living. When God says, no, I want you to live a more farm-based life. I want you to actually apply your life in a long period of time, and the fruit will come. Another one that's kind of a cousin of those two is factories create stuff that isn't very necessary, right? A lot of factories just over-create things and have created a consumer nation because of the factories. Farms create stuff that you can't live without, and that's food, right? And so that's a good question for your life. Is your life, is your busyness, is your hurry just creating a lot of things that aren't really that necessary? Or is your life creating things that are deeply necessary? Or another way to put it, is your life creating things that actually feeds people? Or is it just putting a bunch of more stuff in people's life? Does your life feed people? Does it nourish people? Does it serve people? That's a different question than just, do I pump out stuff down the assembly line that people can kind of live without, but maybe they just might think they need, and it makes them more hurried and busy. And the last quick one I'll give you is factories tend to be linear when farms tend to be cyclical. Or another way to put that is factories tend to live without limits, or they try to buck their limits, when farms can only do what they do based on knowing that they have to submit to limits. There's a more humility about farms, right? So for example, farms, just like when you live with the daily cycles, when the sun goes down, what do? You stop working because you're submitting to the limit of day and night. Factories, what do? You turn on a light and you actually get a shift that works through the night so that you can pump out more stuff and not have to submit to those limits. And there's fascinating history, by the way, with Thomas Edison and why he actually wanted to invent the light bulb. He was said to have worked 20 hours a day and actually wanted to create something where he could actually work more and have his workers work more. And so he needed electricity and lights to do that because he didn't want to submit to the limits. Now, I'm not saying that we all have to stop working past night, but hopefully you're seeing the larger picture at the macro. So that's my thought for today. That's a question is, can you say your life more lines up with the cadence and principles that a farm tends to take on, or with the cadences and principles that a factory tends to take on? I do believe our humanness is more created for the farm-like mindset. So that's just something to chew on for today. Back to you guys.
Jeff, that's fantastic. The combination of that with Joel is magnificent, and
it was perfect. It was like a perfect pairing. PB&J right there.
Love it.
PB&J. That says
not a good wine or something like an adult would say, but someone with toddlers, PB&J. That's pairing.
I love it. Hey, and I think it also ties to the thing I was saying at the very start of the show, which is about the Holy Week and the cycles, right? I mean, and so that we're in the rhythm, which is invariably the rhythm of the Christian life, which we know is, ultimately life and then death and then into life. And that is our story. And somehow the reminders that you're giving us about the concrete examples of living a farm-like spiritual life is a really on-point reminder. Thanks so much, guys. I really appreciate that. So a couple of quick announcements here just to let everybody know, if you haven't heard this already, we are live now on all formats available to humankind, I think. Facebook Live, of course, where many of you are seeing us now, or on YouTube. We are on basically every single podcast format. And in addition, we're kicking it off large this week with Relevant. Our partners at Relevant are going to be with us through this podcast season and daily live stream season. Daily, we're bringing you the best of what church could bring to you if church got to go everywhere, got to hit every topic. One of the things that I think about with this show, which makes me so excited to do it, is as you've heard in the last 15 minutes since we started today's show, the chance to get from my friends on this show things that I'd love to just do, even if we weren't doing a show. And so that's what we're trying to bring to you. The greatest things that we can bring to each other to share with you out there. Tell your friends about it. Drop comments online. We love to hear where you're from, what your prayer needs are. We're praying for you all the time. We're thinking about you all the time. We're here for you. This is our service during this dark period and on into the future. Thinking about you, loving you out there. All right, now we are in the portion of the show. Wow, so that's happening, which brings us the big topics that we've got into the daily life that we're all living right now. And over to you, Calvin. What do you got for us, man?
All right, what's up, guys? First of all, honestly, I love you guys. It's so good to be here with you. John, Marissa, Josh, Joel, Jeff, every day, man. So good. And for everyone who's tuning in, glad you could be with us. As you guys know, this segment, we're trying to bring you some stories to encourage you amidst the crazy of Corona. So we got two stories for you today. My story will be that as part of the Hidden Common Grounds Initiative, USA Today and Public Agenda conducted a poll on March 27th and 30th. And their hopes was to examine issues that divide America along with potential solutions. So they surveyed roughly 1,000 people about Corona, and the results found respondents supporting drastic measures to stop the coronavirus. So I'm gonna share some stats with you, and I hope that you guys are just as encouraged as I was. 72% of respondents believe that the government's priority should be saving lives by stopping the spread of the virus as opposed to sparing the economy. Only about 1 in 5 said the government's main priority should be saving the economy. More than 80% of those surveyed said that they reported rebooting the economy slowly and carefully to avoid endangering lives. And nearly half of the respondents now supporting grounding all domestic flights. The survey found that Americans are rallying around their communities and plan to do even more. More than 2/3 said that they have already supported local businesses, and more than a quarter said that they have donated money, supplies, or time to help people in community. And this last one really got me. And 1 in 5 said that they have exposed themselves to the virus to help others. Thank you to the Hidden Common Grounds Initiative, USA Today, and Public Agenda for doing this study. And I hope you guys are as encouraged as I was to know that there are so many people out there who are leaning into help and loving their neighbor well. So to all those people out there, we thank you, and keep fighting the good fight. Keep up, as John loves to say, keep fighting the good fight. Don't want to steal his line. But yeah, and I'm going to pitch it over to Marissa, who has our other story for today.
Hey guys, thank you for that, Calvin. Yeah, this is leading right actually into our discussion topic of the day. Top health officials are bracing Americans, all of us. I'm sure most of you have read it. I read this weekend and actually today. They're bracing us for quite possibly the worst stretch of Corona this week, with case numbers and death counts expected to peak in cities and states all across the country. This is going to be the hardest and saddest week of most Americans' lives, quite frankly, said U.S. Surgeon General Jerome Adams yesterday. This is going to be our Pearl Harbor moment, our 9/11 moment, only it's not going to be localized. It's going to be happening all over the country. So my question today, guys, is when we hear that grim, very grim declaration, are there principles that come to mind for any of us? Really, I guess the real question is, what are you holding on to that's going to get you through this week? I'd love to hear what you guys had to say.
That's a good
Pastor,
one.
Pastor
Yeah.
Joel.
Yeah. Let me go where, I think a lot of us who are people of faith are going to our faith in some way. But for me, I'm going to go very tangible. And so if you're, someone who's kind of checking faith out, or you're not a Christian, thank you so much for watching and listening. But let me say this, man, I am holding on to the resurrected Jesus. Like the idea that there is real death, but that God overcame death and gives us life that goes beyond what we know here. Now, I think the other piece for me is, the ability, if we're able to both serve and to highlight those and support those who serve, as Calvin said, I think I can hang on to that because it reminds me that like there's real goodness and hope and love happening in the world. And then if we're going through those dark times, man, I really believe there's life on the other side of death. And it's because of what we're celebrating this week. So I'm hanging on tight to Jesus.
It's good, Joel. It's good. Calvin.
Come on, Joel.
Right? Hey, Calvin,
Man,
what you got?
I don't know. What else could I add? Joel's like, yeah, give me Jesus. But the other day we were talking about this idea of, I think it was Joel who brought up the idea of Imago Dei, right? That God's image, God's imprint on each one of us. And so honestly, what I think, I'm kind of torn. There's one part of me that is not looking forward to this challenge, right? That there will be a lot of death and pain and suffering in the coming days. But yeah, part of me is also, if there's any group of people that we're supposed to go into this with, I think if you woke up today, if you woke up today, then you're supposed to be here on this planet, and that God has a purpose for you and meaning, and God knows exactly what he's doing, and he does not give challenges that he knows that his people cannot overcome. So, hey, part of me is also excited for, in this moment, in this hard, painful moment, if there's anyone that we're going to ride into the dark with, everyone out there, I'm glad it's you, because there's something that only you can do, and that we're only going to get through this together. So yeah, glad to be riding with you into this uncertain and dark time.
JK, you look like you are raring to go, friend. Raring to go.
Yeah, well, I agree with all that's been said so far, and I also agree with Calvin. Keep fighting the good fight. Don't steal my lines, man. That's me. Come on, baby. But that we really.
I'm spending too much time with you.
I know. It's true. I love you guys, and I love being with you in this space. The thing that comes to me is the combination of yes, the most transcendent and fundamental of all truths, the one that Joel spoke to, and the one we're teasing out day every day here, that the death and the life story and this Holy Week season, and that God's here for us through all this, and that's the big story. That is the biggest of all stories, and we're living it in Corona or out of Corona for sure. One thing that also helps me on a practical basis, I go back to history a lot. I spend a lot of time thinking about times where people have been in tough times before. And that really adds to my sense of encouragement to offer you all, and my own personal encouragement. We're going to get through this. World War II, you guys hear me talk about World War II a lot, because World War II was long and tough and brutal on multiple different continents. 25 million people died, but we came through it. It's brutal, it's awful, it's painful. It took forever. Men, women showing courage, leaning into the days. And I don't just mean the big abstraction of like, we got through it, but I go back and look at the daily lives, the way people got through it, and realize there's something really empowering about recognizing that any day might be your last, but that's okay. You got the day you got, and live as hard and large and big and out there as you can, and do what you can do. There's something that really just liberating about that. For me, I take that's a little bit of slicing off history and bringing it into the moment.
I love that. I
So
love
good.
it. It is so good. And I mean, for me, again, my thoughts are definitely dovetailing with everything you guys have to say. But this idea that every one of our days was written in God's book before one of them came to be is really powerful for me. And it ties into what Calvin was saying, just because, okay, if I was born for this hour, and I didn't know we were going to have Corona, I didn't know that things were going to be the way they are. None of us did. But if every one of my days was written in God's book before one of them came to be, then I guess I must be made for this moment. I guess I must be made for this hour. And this idea that not only I'm made for this hour, but that we are not alone. And together we can get through whatever our times bring our way is really powerful and actually kind of exciting to me, because it gives me new eyes when I look around at who's around me on a day-to-day basis, who's in my life, who do I know? Because if I know you now and we're going through this together and we can lean on one another, we can learn from one another, we can love one another, that's powerful. There's a whole lot of life in that. There's a whole lot of life possibilities in that. And so, yeah, I would just encourage everybody, take inventory again of who is around you, who can you love, who can you reach out to, who can you learn from. It's an awful time, but it's exciting to know that there's still a full life that can be had with each other right now.
Yeah. Marissa, I want to tag in on that and what John said, because, there's people that are feeling, maybe even hearing what we're saying right now, be like, wait a minute, I've got Corona. My mother has Corona, or I just lost my job. Y'all talking about hope and joy. What are you talking about? And I just want to say to those people, listen, I have been there. I'm someone who's struggled mightily with like seasonal depression and the feeling of just like heaviness and everything's going away. But what John said will get me through, which is like, today I woke up and I can put one foot in front of the other, and I've got today, and I'm going to live today. And then tomorrow when I wake up, I'm going to live that day. And so I just want to encourage you, if you're feeling like all the heaviness of this time, just keep going today, man. Just don't give up.
Amen. All we got is each other and God, of course.
The guys here know I'm kind of an emotional sort, and I don't want to weep openly on the air.
Do it, John. Do it.
That the way you read that back, Joel, that kind of hit me, man. I mean, seriously, that today I got today. The way you said it, I got today, and there's something I guess I'm just saying it again for myself, maybe nobody else. Perhaps it's liberating, right?
Yeah.
This is what I got. I mean, let's strip it all down. We got today, we got each other, we got the moment you can serve each other in, and that's how people got through the darkest times of all time. You got the day you're in, you live hard in that day.
It's good. It's good, Jeff.
Oh,
I'm sorry. What's that?
Right now. No, I'm just listening.
No, my bad.
This is amazing. Go ahead, Calvin.
Jeff. No, I was just going to throw in a hashtag of what John said. Hashtag, why not today? Why not you?
Exactly.
Why not us?
Yeah.
Love it. But Calvin, I think we need to keep a running list of all your hashtags. I love it. We got so many hashtags.
Those hashtags could be appropriate for like Friday Night Lights or for spiritual life.
It's true. It's very true.
You know, why not?
I said
that those hashtags could be appropriate for Friday Night Lights, the show, or for our spiritual life. Why not us? You know.
Why not? Boom. Jeff, you want anything else on this topic before we move on?
I love that, guys. I just was listening and absorbing that. I think it was all so powerful and good.
Well, I'm going to roll into. We're going to take a little bit of extra time. We seem to be blowing out our window a little bit here, but let's turn it back to Marissa here to share some things about how to bring as she calls it, the good in the next few days. That how to live well during Corona. Give us a few tips on that.
Absolutely. Again, well, as we all know, just from what we heard, man, take one day at a time. This day we're going to live strong. We're going to love each other well. So that's probably one of the biggest tips for how to get through now. On a lighter note, For all of you who are like me, who've been craving Girl Scout cookies, crave no more, people. They're now available online. And the best part about them is you could get them online, get them for yourself. That's fine. That's basic. But they're also allowing us right now to order online and donate cookies to first responders or volunteers in need. So word for this one, go to girlscouts.org to either get your blessing or to be a blessing. Let's keep that in mind, y'all. Be a blessing with the Girl Scout cookies. And the second way, are you looking at home for a book that you can read with everyone in your family together, regardless of age? I have not personally read this book, but online, apparently, there's tons of recommendations floating around for a book. It's a picture book, and it's called The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse by Charlie Mackesy. Supposedly, it sparks live conversation amongst people who have lost things to say to one another. So it's perfect for families that are quarantining together. The fable is intended for folks of all ages, and it centers on, of course, a boy, a mole, a fox, and a horse, and they're wandering the countryside. They're watching the sunsets together and moon rises, and they're asking a whole lot of questions, and they're telling stories and learning about each other and life along the way. Some of the lessons that they're talking about are that like home isn't just one place for people, that flying isn't only for birds, and that it's brave to ask for help. So clearly there are some lessons here that resonate for older folks and for young people together. And the author has some advice for readers who are feeling scared and uncertain and alone right now. He said, never underestimate the love that's around you. You're never alone. And every storm has an end. In fact, that's probably my next drawing. The boy asks the horse, what do you know about storms? And the horse says, they end. So check out the book if you're needing something. I think our team could probably benefit from reading it together. Wouldn't that be fun, guys? Like every night, around like 8:00, we like share with this book. We like read chapters across the
American
country.
Awakening book club.
Yes, the book club. I love it. I love it.
See online somebody's saying from in the UK that it's the book's gone crazy there. It's such an encouraging book. Thank you, Nicole. I appreciate for that word. I appreciate that. Let's do that. Let's do a little reading club. How is it? Is it like a long read or a short read?
It doesn't seem to be a very long read, and apparently it's supposed to be beautiful. Like the artwork's beautiful. It's a really elegant book. So yeah, it seems like something in it for all of us as well.
That's a good word. Thanks for bringing blessings to us today, Marissa. And before we kick it over to Josh to close us off, we need to dig into our movie line of the day. We're going to spend a little time on this one, Jeff, because this is, again, the going back to dark and hard times to find encouragement today. What do you got for us, Jeff?
How about we do a little 1-2 punch then? Because you said you wanted to get some nuggets in on this one. But yes, movie line of the day from Black Hawk Down. If you guys aren't familiar with that movie, what was it? Battle of Mogadishu, early 90s. So true story, phenomenal movie. I remember loving it in high school. I had it on DVD. It was one of my prized DVDs that I like. You remember those when you used to stack them up, alphabetize them, all that stuff?
Yes.
My kids are like, what's those? But yeah, it's such a phenomenal movie with such good underlying tones of leadership and truth and just amazing stuff. And then to know it's a true story is incredible too. But yeah, John, you intro it real quick. What else? Because I say I want to hear, what did you love about it before you?
Oh man, well, it's got everything. I'm a guy, so maybe it's me or maybe it's guys everywhere. But when people demonstrate profound courage in the face of their imminent death, I mean, that just crushes me, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
that's not just for guys, John. That's like encouraging for all of us.
Yeah, there you go, Marissa. I'm sorry for being. I'm sorry, but I just know I will go back to a movie like that over and over and over again, because just seeing people lay down their lives for each other, right? Yeah. And the whole leave no man behind, no woman behind, I mean, whatever, that ethic of like, we're not leaving a person behind, even if you're going to put yourself at harm's way to go that extra mile, even sometimes when people's, that they've lost their lives already. Mind-blowing concept. And Black Hawk Down does just such justice to those guys that are out there on the front lines of that one. And so without further ado, let's kick it over there.
Hey, Doc, Everyone feels the same way you do. All right? It's what you do right now that makes a difference. It's your call. Cool? Cool.
Oh, it's so good. What I love the undertones too of like he's not just trying to be like, oh, suck it up, get out there. He says like we all feel that exact same way.
That's right.
But you gotta kind of be obedient to the call. That movie's so good. I forgot about that movie until Movie Line of the Day. I definitely think that's in the pantheon of U.S. military movies because there's so many, but that one's up there for me for sure.
I agree with that. Yeah,
I didn't realize that Frozen 2 actually stole that line. You know, the whole central theme of Frozen 2 was do the next right thing. There's a whole song.
Exactly. But it was Black Hawk Down first. It was Black Hawk Down first.
Down.
Elsa and then the U.S. military. Yeah, exactly.
the principle may even go, back in time before Black Hawk Down, maybe.
I think so. I think so.
But that idea of being defined by what you're going to do in the face of how hard it is, man, one, woo, that'll give you a kick in the behind to move to the next step, right? So, Josh, bring us home, brother. What do you got for us?
I got this one right here. This is Cornerstone. My hope is built on nothing less than Jesus' blood and righteousness. I dare not trust the sweetest frame, but wholly trust in Jesus' name. My hope is built on nothing less than Jesus' blood and righteousness. I dare not trust the sweetest frame, but only trust in Jesus' name. Christ alone, cornerstone, the weak made strong, and the Savior's love through the storm. He is Lord, Lord of all. Ooh, Christ alone, cornerstone, the weak made strong, the Savior's love to the storm. He is Lord, Lord of all. And he shall come with trumpet sound. Oh, may I there in him be found, just in his righteousness alone, faultless to stand before the throne. Christ alone, cornerstone, the weak made strong, and the Savior's love through the storm. He is Lord, Lord of all.
Thank you, Josh. Thank you, Josh. And I thank you for all the listeners and viewers out there. Thank you for showing up. We're so grateful for you. Thank you, Suzanne Davis, who just gave us a nice shout out. Really appreciate that, Suzanne. And we want to be a blessing to you all. We want to be of service to you all. We show up every day. We're motivated by you, thinking of you, trapped at home, maybe too many kids around, whatever the thing is, whatever you're going through, we're thinking about it. We're praying for you. If you think this is a blessing to you and maybe of service to somebody else out there, please do share it. As I said, we are now in practically every format known to man and womankind. We're out there every place now, and we're going to go large and large and large, and we want to share every place. So until tomorrow, keep fighting the good fight, folks. I got the line back there, Calvin. I'm going with it. And we look forward to seeing you all tomorrow. God bless you until then.